What if the universe isn't just some random mess of forces and particles? What if it was all built from a single shared set of rules, almost like an architect's plan? Today, we're going to explore a really fascinating model that proposes exactly that, a hidden blueprint for reality itself.
So let's start with that really big question. What if everything we see, from the tiniest atom to the biggest galaxy, was actually constructed from the exact same fundamental template, a universal design that governs all of existence?
All right, so to really get our heads around this model, we're going to break it down into 5 parts. We'll start with the container that holds reality, then look at the fields providing tension and timing. After that, we'll see how it all clicks together, and finally explore why this whole architectural view of the universe really matters.
Okay, let's dive right in. The very first piece of the puzzle is this. Every single physical object, and I mean everything, exists inside a common container. This isn't just empty space, it's a fundamental, shared boundary for all of reality's inner workings.
Now, this container isn't just some vague idea. It has a very specific shape. It's what's called a volume-preserving oblate spheroid. The easiest way to picture that? Just think about the Earth, which is a little bit wider at its equator than it is from pole to pole. That shape is the stage for everything that happens inside.
And the amount of this flattening is, well, it's tiny. We're talking about 2%. And this is super important. In this model, that little imperfection isn't a bug, it's a feature, a critical one. Without it, the whole thing just doesn't work. So, you might be asking, why not a perfect sphere? Well, it's because that tiny bit of flattening breaks what's called perfect symmetry. It introduces this subtle but consistent imperfection that allows the model to make predictions that are actually calculable and can be tested against real-world data.
All right, so we've got our container, now we need to give it some substance, right? This is where the background tension field comes in, which this model says is the fundamental fabric of spacetime.
The model calls this K6, and it's not a particle, it's not a force like you might think, it's a continuous tension field, kind of the underlying elastic background of the whole universe. And here's the kicker, the really profound part. The model says that the phase response of this field is what we feel as gravity.
I mean, that just completely turns how we think about gravity on its head, right? It suggests gravity isn't some fundamental force carried by a particle, but it's an emergent effect. It's just how this continuous elastic fabric adjusts when matter and energy are present.
Okay, so we've got the container and we've got the background tension. But for any system this complex to work, you absolutely need coordination. You need a clock, which brings us to the next piece of this whole blueprint.
And that's the job of a field they call K5. Think of it like a global timing signal. It's a very slow wave that travels only along the surface of our cosmic container, that oblate spheroid. It's not pushing things around, it's just providing the rhythm for everything else to follow.
Yeah, it's basically a cosmic metronome. It doesn't inject any power itself, it just creates these phase windows. It's like a strobe light in a dark room. You only see things move when the light flashes, right? K5 is that strobe, creating specific moments in time where other internal processes can happen.
Okay, so let's just do a quick side-by-side to make sure we've got this straight. You've got K6, the background tension, the actual fabric of space that can bend and relax to give us gravity. And then you have K5, the timing signal, the surface wave that provides the global rhythm. One sets the stage, the other directs the performance. All right, it's time to put all these pieces together and look at the full architectural plan. This is the pipeline that, according to this model, literally builds our reality from the outside in.
So it all happens in 4 pretty clear steps. First, that K6 tension field loads up the boundary. That tension is what allows the K5 clock to run on the surface. Then, that timing signal feeds energy into an internal storage depot, which is called K4. And finally, with that energy store and timing reference locked in, the fields that make up the matter and forces we actually recognize, that's K1 through K3, can organize themselves inside.
And look, this isn't just some hand-wavy conceptual idea. The model lays this all out with precise mathematical rules. They're called boundary conditions. The best way to think about it is like the skin of a drum. The rule for the matter fields K1 through K3 is like fixing the edge of the drum so it can't move at all. But the rule for K6 and K5 is like leaving the edge free to flap. These rules dictate exactly how energy and phase flow from the outside in.
This chart here just makes that whole architecture super clear. In that first bar, you see K6 and K5, the tension and timing fields. They live right on the surface of the container.
The second bar shows K4, which gets injected through that surface into an internal depot. And finally, the third bar shows K1, K2, and K3, the stuff we're actually made of, which exists strictly inside, never touching the boundary at all.
Okay, so after all that, what's the payoff? Why does looking at the universe through this blueprint even matter? Well, it turns out this structure gives us some potential answers to some really big questions in physics.
Well, for one, it explains gravity without needing a whole new particle, no graviton needed. It gives us a mechanism for timing things without having to invent new forces. But maybe the most important thing is that it makes concrete, testable predictions. That slight flattening of the spheroid, it should leave a measurable spectral fingerprint. It's like a unique barcode stamped onto the light from deep space. The model even provides a fixed ladder of frequencies to look for, all anchored to the electron. So the big takeaway here is this. This model isn't just a grab bag of cool ideas, it's a complete, self-contained system. It gives us a clean wiring diagram for reality itself, where the fundamental flow of energy and timing information comes from a shared boundary and moves inward to create everything we see.
And that, of course, leaves us with one last, pretty provocative thought. If this is the blueprint of the universe, then understanding it doesn't just mean we can explain what's already here. The real question is, what else could we build with it?